Welcome to Ken Hill Substack, and this is a video portion of my Substack. And before we get into the topic at hand, just a little bit of housekeeping. And the housekeeping really starts with thanking everyone for all of your support. You know, I've wanted a format like this for quite a while, and just the support has been absolutely amazing. And your support is what allows me to do topics like this one, where I can spend a little bit of time going deeper on it, and asking the people that I want to ask about the relevance of what they're doing and what I'm doing, and making sure everything's where it's supposed to be. And so your support allows me to do things like that. And yeah, while this particular topic is going to be pretty deep, we're also going to have a lot of simpler topics. And we'll also be doing some myth busting, answering questions. So if you have a suggestion for something, send it in. I mean, that's really how these go. So there's a little bit of housekeeping. Yeah, and the race season's been super busy this year. And the goal is to get a couple of these out a month. And I still am not going to put something out that doesn't have standards that I want. So sometimes it takes a little bit more. Sometimes you get a couple of them a week. So it just kind of depends on what's happening. All right, let's get into topic at hand. Yeah, this one, this one has been on my plate for a really long time. And it's one that, even though we've worked on it for years and years, decades actually, putting it in a way that we can communicate it, and being able to communicate it in a format like this, that has been not really an easy task. And so this is one where organically we've spent we actually spend most of our time dealing with clients and getting it figured out. So strap in. We're gonna dive right into it. So topic at hand: brake pressure at turn-in. And brake pressure at turn-in, I think, is one of the least understood aspects in motorsports. Yet it is by far the most crucial component to corner entry. So to pause here for a second, doesn't matter if you're a motorcycle guy, a car guy, go-kart guy, a bicycle guy going downhill. I mean, this is how you do it. And so we may get into, there may be some wording in here where we're talking about, say, bikes or cars or whatever, but really it's all the same. So it really transcends on every one of these. So brake pressure turn-in, it is by far the most crucial aspect of corner entry. It controls your straightaway speed, your steering, and your overall entry speed. Too little brake pressure turn-in, and your speed and direction aren't controlled. Too much, you've overslowed the corner. Don't have the right timing for it. You're either early or late. Your tires are overloaded or underloaded. You've killed your confidence. You don't know what grip is. And let's hang on a second. Let's throw in that term trail braking. And it's absolutely overwhelming. You literally don't know what the hell is going on, or what you should be doing, or what any of these things means. And what I want to do here is try to simplify all that and give you the what, why, how of what having the correct amount of brake pressure turn-in, what that can do for you. And then, of course, we'll get into a little bit of how to do it. Super important topic. So why is this such a big deal? And in my world, coaching for over 20 years, this is still the most least understood area of being on track. It's for sure the most feared, right? Everybody's scared of what's going to happen on a corner entry. It's the thing that I spend the most amount of time working on with students, right? Explaining it, putting in the most reps. It's for sure the most controversial, right? There's all these different things. And, it's also something that, when done correctly, it adds a huge degree of safety. But when it's done incorrectly, it can add risk. So very difficult topic. And it's one that I don't think is explained well enough. And the whole idea with this is let's make it simple for you and also give you some great takeaways. So ultimately you can start to work on this yourself. So let's start off. What are some typical issues and what are the symptoms with this? And really it's not accelerating enough to use the brakes, right? Or to use even the brakes properly. And you don't accelerate because you don't know what the braking is about, right? You don't know how the brakes work, and you're not understanding how they enable slowing and turning. Or the big one, right? Overslowing your corner entry. So we have either too much or too early of a brake application for your speed. And the other one is, we rely on lean angle or steering wheel angle to turn and scrub speed rather than the brakes. So off the brakes and then trying to use lean angle or steering wheel angle to get direction going and not taking advantage of that powerful with the brakes. And what happens there, right? Then you lose confidence because you end up running too much lean angle, too much steering wheel angle too early, and that wipes out your confidence as well, right? You're not taking advantage of having the right amount of lean angle or steering wheel angle down at the slow point. So you're going to lose speed, lose confidence, and all those types of things. So yeah, and then we have afraid of applying or using the brakes at lean angle. You don't want to use them at lean angle or steering wheel angle. Think, oh my gosh, I'll overload the front tires. I'll transfer weight too much and I'll crash. Yeah, that absolutely can happen when doing it incorrectly. And not having any front tire feel, not feeling what's going on, and not having confidence that you're going to have grip. And most of the time that comes from an underloaded tire or using the brakes at the wrong time. So you don't have that load, right? That the weight isn't transferred and that load isn't carried correctly. So this is also a big one, which is the incorrect braking technique, thinking it's trail braking. And having the brakes on in a corner and just because you have the brakes on in a corner, that doesn't mean it's trail braking. And what you're really missing from trail braking correctly, which we'll get into, is you're missing the timing of it and what it does at specific points of that timing, let alone the most important aspect of this is where you release the brakes. And all of this really stems from the general lack of understanding of why and how the brakes should be used. And I think that this conversation really starts with getting back and reintroducing why the brakes are used, right? Why are the reasons that the brakes are being used? And there's three aspects of it. And then also talking about what true trail braking is really all about. So let's get into why the brakes are used. And the brakes are used for three reasons. And the first one is they're used for slowing, right? We have to slow down. We have to mitigate the speed on the front straightaway. So yeah, on track, the best lap time is by having the most acceleration off the corners and continuing that acceleration for as long as possible down the straightaways. But of course, now we've got a corner coming up and we have to navigate that corner. And so do we say, well, okay, I need to navigate this corner. I'm just not going to use the brakes. No, that's of course scary, and you're not going to use the brakes. Or are you going to brake too hard and then actually not be able to carry the appropriate speed into the corner? So you have to realize that, first of all, being on track like that, where we don't take advantage of the acceleration and we don't hold the acceleration to where we need to, it's really, honestly, it's just not that fun. And it gets old getting past, right? Especially on the straightaways, knowing that you've got a powerful vehicle, and it all stems from the brakes. So we want to use the most powerful mechanical component available to us that guarantees we get to the speed that we want. And that is, it's the brakes, right? So the brakes. So think of your straight up and down braking, right? We call that straight up and down braking, or braking in a straight line. That is speed control. And that we're accelerating and we're holding acceleration on the straightaways because we're planning on using our brakes, right? We plan on doing something. We're not going to go into a corner and think, I don't know if I can make this. No, the first step is we're planning on using the brakes. And we'll get into why we want to use the brakes down and deeper into the corner. So first one, think of it as speed control, right? You're in a straight line. Everything's pointed straight, right? Motorcycle, you're not using any contact, contact patches straight up and down. You can use the brakes to their maximum. Car steering wheel angle straight, use the brakes to their maximum. That's speed control. So that's the number one aspect of using the brakes. The second one is steering. So after turning into a corner, deceleration heightens your radius. And using your brakes is the most efficient way to accomplish that. And proper brake usage also facilitates, there's other elements at play, weight transfer, front tire contact patch. In a motorcycle's case, right, the optimum geometry to help the steering. So reason number two is steering. And you can think of it as, if you weren't using the brakes for that steering, how much longer it would take to be able to get the vehicle to turn when it turn in the same time and distance is not using the brake, or not using the brakes, right? Not using the brakes, it takes a longer time to do that. And honestly, there's a lot more comfort that goes into that, where you actually get more stability as well, right? The weight is transferred appropriately. You've got more weight forward, and you actually have a more stable platform when that happens. So reason number two is steering. Third reason, and this is one I think is a little bit overlooked, and we don't realize what a big part of the brakes that play into this is setting our entry speed. So number third reason is setting our entry speed. So where does entry speed and roll speed come from? It comes from a proper braking procedure. There's very few corners in America where if you got into that corner at the best you can for your platform, and you exited the best that you can for your platform, that actually increasing the throttle in the middle of the corner would improve your lap time. I mean, there's less than a handful of corners in America where that happens. If you find that you're wanting more roll speed, then it's simply, we just need to work on your entry procedure, right? We need to work on your braking procedure. And using your brakes properly past turn, it enables you to continue to decelerate, setting the entry speed you want based on your comfort and conditions. Yes, absolutely, the devil's in the details, but the bottom line is using your brakes past turn in gets you slowed and pointed the most efficiently, and it also sets the entry speed you want down to the slowest point of the corner. So those are the three reasons why the brakes are used in a corner. It takes care of all those things. So, okay, here comes those words. Here comes those words that everybody hears, that everybody gets freaked out about. It's right, well, but I should be trail braking, right? The term trail braking gets thrown around a lot. And quite honestly, the definitions are all over the place. For some people, they'll say, okay, I'm trail braking because I'm using the brakes in a corner, right? That's trail braking. Or I got on the brakes in a corner, but I let them off. So that's trail braking. And other people just think, well, I had the brakes on, so that's trail braking. We're talking about true trail braking. So let's revisit the definition of trail braking, because if we don't understand the actual term and technique, then brake pressure turn-in really is not going to make any sense. So definition of trail braking in very simple terms. Trail braking is a driving and motorcycle riding technique where the brakes are used beyond the entrance to a turn-in, and then gradually released, trailed off, depending on a number of factors. The rider or driver fully releases brake pressure at any point between turn-in and the apex of the corner, or the slowest point of the corner. So the thing with true trail braking controls all three of those aspects that I talked about, right? True trail braking controls your straightaway speed, steering, and corner entry speed all in one. That's true trail braking. And okay, so now I'm going to say something a little bit bold. Oof, here we go. True trail braking isn't needed until you get to 10 to 12 seconds off the lap record for your vehicle. I mean, when you think about it, right? if you're running 20 or 30 seconds off the pace and you're trail braking, you've overslowed your entry. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? In other words, you're on the brakes, at turn in, and you're trailing them off. Well, you're giving up a lot of straightaway speed when that happens. You're not getting the steering that you want, or you're also not getting the optimum entry speed that you want. So didn't I just say you need a trail braking? Isn't that part of the deal? Of course you need trail braking. Yeah, I mean, that's using brakes in a corner is correct. Absolutely is correct. We want to use brakes in a corner. But if you're trying to trail brake at the slower speeds, you're really going to be missing one of those three aspects. I mean, that's the reality of it. So how do we get into position then to learn true trail braking? And what are the report cards? And that really is what brake pressure at turn in is all about. So the overall goal of all of this is to introduce you to thinking about brake pressure at turn in. And overall, it's having the right amount of brake pressure at turn in so you can control your direction and control your entry speed, right? So I want to have enough brake pressure at turn in to set my trajectory into the corner and also set my speed down to the slowest point. And yeah, this is one of the most difficult aspects of being on track. It is incredibly difficult, but yet is one of the absolute most powerful parts of being on track. And it opens the door for so many different things. So having correct brake pressure at turn in enables true trail braking, captures the proper weight transfer, the suspension geometry. You can maintain higher straightaway speeds for longer. You can steer, tightening up your trajectory, and then, yeah, you can get the entry speed that you want. So that's a lot, I know. So let's draw a couple things out here for you. So basically, how do we do this? And what does this look like? So hang on a second here. I'm going to share my screen. And boom, we're going to look at Laguna. And we're going to talk a little bit about Laguna. And we're going to draw a few things out for Laguna that will help you get this figured out, or at least help you on this journey. So remember, the whole goal of this is to get you to think about brake pressure at turn in so you can have steering and entry speed. So let's make sure that we're understanding what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. So let's grab. We'll take a look at turn 2, but we're going to start with turn 3 at Laguna first, because I think turn 3 at Laguna is an incredibly difficult corner. I think that at Laguna, I think Laguna is actually not that difficult of a track to learn, but I think turn 3 and 4 are very difficult to navigate, especially at pace. So just a couple of quick things here when we look at this, right? So if our apex is here, apex is about right there, right? Because that's what allows us to have the trajectory off the corner. Awesome. That means our slowest point of the corner, because we're going to treat it as an exit corner, right? Our slowest point of the corner ends up being about right in here. I'm going to draw a couple arrows to right there, right? So that's our goal. Our goal is to be able to release the brake there, so then we can start our positive acceleration past this apex, right? That's our goal, because we're treating it as an exit corner. So we have to think about what our goal is first. And we need to start with that. So that is our goal. Okay, cool. So using our brakes, and we'll draw out a brake graph as well. The idea is that, let me draw here. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, so actually I don't have that right. So bear with me for just a quick second. Let's see if this works. And I am going to erase that. Okay, cool. So we need something much. Here, let's go a little bit deeper than that. All right, bear with me here. All right, here we go. So what we want to be able to accomplish with this is being in a position to have the right amount of brake pressure at turn in. So having the right amount of brake pressure at turn in, we need to ultimately be in a position to where we can do that. And the way that we're going to do that is, we're trying to get the right drawing utensil for everybody. So if our line coming into 3, and again, we're just going to kind of draw it in like this, right? If this is our line into 3, we know that's where we want to release the brake. So normally what will end up happening if you're not, well, actually, let's draw it this way. Let's draw it what we would call the correct brake graph. So let's just draw a little brake graph up here. And if our correct brake graph is we would go to the brakes, build brake pressure, and then trail that brake pressure off down to the slow point, something like that. The way that that would look is this part of the brake graph, our speed control part of the brake graph, is going to be in this section right here, right? So we apply the brakes, and then that's where that left side of our brake graph comes up, right? So the left side of the brake graph comes up like that. And at turn in, right, we need to have enough weight transfer. In motorcycles case, the fork collapsed, so we initiate steering. So as we go then we start our turn in. So let's just say our turn in starts right in here, right? So we start to turn in, and then as we start to trail the brake off down to that slow point, that's this part of the brake graph here, down in here, and then we're going to trail the brake off down to that slowest point. So this left side of the brake graph is where we control our speed. The right side of our brake graph is steering and entry speed. So that's why, this is how true trail braking works, right? We've built maximum brake pressure. We start to turn in, and then we trail the brake off down to that slow point of the corner. So that's how true trail braking works. So how do we start to capture having brake pressure at turn in to facilitate these things? Let's talk about that. So the way that we're going to do that is, now we're going to start on our brake graph again. What we want to work on is the right side of our brake graph and be in a position to get to that right side of the brake graph. So if we were going to the brakes, let's just make it up, right? If we're going to the brakes here in the optimum way, we would actually start going to the brakes here, but lighter. So we would actually go to the brakes lighter here, and then that would carry us into the corner, and we would carry lighter brake pressure as we got towards turn in. And then at turn in, we would add a little bit of brake pressure. Okay, let's pause here. When I say add a little bit of brake pressure, it's going from, let's say you're at 20 or 30% brakes, it's going from 30 to 38% brakes. If you're at 20% brakes, it's going to 26% brakes. If you're at 50% brakes, you're going to 54% brakes. You're not going from 50 to 90. That's not what we're looking for. It takes less pressure than you think at turn in to facilitate steering, to facilitate steering, and then being able to set your entry speed. So we want to be able to build that brake pressure, have that kind of your peak of brake pressure right here, turn in. And then here's the trick. We need to be able to hold that brake pressure, and we're talking milliseconds here. We're holding that brake pressure just long enough where we start to get direction. We start to get the bike or the car to hook into the corner, to change its trajectory, to tighten its radius up. And then once we start to facilitate that steering, then we finish our trail braking off. We start to trail the brake off. So getting in a position to have the correct amount of brake pressure at turn in, it's not an easy task. So let's kind of go back and recap a little bit of this, because I think it's worth, let's just take a second little look at this. So if we have our brake graph, right, and this is, if our turn-in point is, again, if our turn-in point, say right here, the idea is we want to have enough brake pressure left over at turn-in to be able to capture the weight transfer, to be able to capture, in a motorcycle's case, the fork compressed, so we have steering available to us. We actually feel that rotation. We feel the bike start to hook in, or the car start to hook into the corner. Once we feel that sharpness, right, that direction, then we can start to release the brake to control our entry speed. So here, as we capture that right in this area here, that's in this area of the corner right here, right at that turn in. And then down here, this is where we're going to release the brake to get the roll speed and to get to the end of braking point that we want. So very difficult thing to initially start, but this is one of the biggest points of motorsports that will literally change, change your whole idea of how the bike or the car steers. So brake pressure turn in. Yeah, I know this is kind of a deep one. So to recap a little bit, the whole goal with this was to get you to think about your braking differently. Thinking, one, the brakes are used for 3 reasons. We have to slow down on a straightaway, right? So we want to accelerate because we plan to use our brakes. So that's 1. Control our straight up and down speed. 2, as we turn in the corner, letting it capture weight transfer, letting it capture the geometry, letting it capture our trajectory. And once you stay with that brake long enough, we have enough brake force at turn in to hold it. And once it starts to steer, then you can start to trail brake, right? Then you can start to release the brake to set your entry speed. Those are the 3 reasons why we're using the brakes. And when you start to adopt this, it really changes the adjustability that you have as a rider. It changes how you literally will approach every type of corner. It'll change how much time of acceleration you have, because you know that you're going to be able to steer into the next corner and be able to set your entry speed into the next corner. So yeah, this is a hard one. This is definitely a deep one. But again, the overall goal with this was to get you to start thinking about your braking a little bit differently and start thinking about your brake pressure at turn in. Yeah, this is for sure one of the hardest things that we have to learn in the sport. But the sooner that you can adopt this type of thought process and being able to use the brakes, it really opens a lot of doors for you. Yeah, and it's crazy. There's a lot of people that are afraid of teaching this, or they feel that it's an advanced thing. It's absolutely not an advanced thing. Again, as I stated, using your brakes in the corner, car, bike, is how you do it. Now, they can be used for a variety of reasons, but the idea of it is we want to be able to slow down, right? We have to decelerate. We have to get direction. We have to be able to set entry speed. And not teaching trail braking, in my opinion, is crazy, because the faster we go, the more this literally has to happen. It has to happen, not only for safety, but for speed, as well. So there you go. A lot to this one. Yeah, I hope you look at your braking a little bit differently. And again, thanks for all the support. And yeah, let's get some other topics going. I've got so many going on. But yeah, I thought this would be a good one, and it's for sure one that I've had to focus on a lot over the last 4 or 5 months. And so it was time to dust off the notes and get something going.